presented by Nick Taylor, who is the CEO of Darkfire Productions and also an author in his own right. He's written several books under the Lagon series, and he'll be using examples of, oh, you know what, this didn't go, it didn't start.
The recording didn't?
Yeah, I need to start again, okay?
Okay.
Well, we're going to start again. Welcome to Author U's Webinars Are Us series, and today we have a terrific program on shaking it online, how to market your books, your eBooks, effectively and successfully and actually make a living doing it. Our presenter today is the CEO and president of Darkfire Productions, Nick Taylor. He's also an author in his own right, has written several books under the Lagon series, and he'll be using examples throughout our presentation with the Lagon series, including the cover and how he strategized and was very successful with his own book sales. So with that, welcome, Nick, and let's get started.
Great. Thank you, Judith. All right. Well, I'll go ahead, and I'm going to jump right in here. Like we talked about, we're going to be discussing how to market your ebook online. And a lot of the ways we're going to do that is looking at some branding stuff, and we're just going to be looking at some great ways to integrate stuff into your current situation, your current writing. Okay, so we hear this term all the time. If you build it, they'll come. Well, we like to ask the question, if you build it, will they stay? One of the most difficult parts about web marketing is getting exposure. You're out there in the internet, which sounds great and easy because we see our own website, but there's millions, possibly even billions, I don't know, other sites that are out there. So you have to get that attention, and once someone's on your site or on your book page or on your Twitter account or your Facebook or Google Plus page, you've got to keep them there. So we built it, now we need to get them to stay. All right. What we're going to be talking about today is creating long and short-term strategies for marketing your book. We're going to be talking about some of the tools that we're going to use and why we need to use some of those tools. Now you're going to notice I don't have your traditional PowerPoint presentation up here. The reason for that is I'm going to be spending almost no time in this presentation today. We're going to be spending most of our time online so you can actually see some of these tools and some of these resources. At the end of this, we'll open it up for a bit of a Q&A session, and so if you have anything, just keep notes and feel free to ask questions at the end. All right, so we're going to be talking about some basic things that you need before you're really in the position where you need to market anything. The first thing that you're going to need is killer cover art. And we'll be looking at some examples of killer cover art. What cover art's going to do is it's going to really help you market your book, because the reality of it is people judge books by their cover. I know I do, and pretty much everybody else does. So when we're creating killer cover art, we need to make sure we are creating something that is going to make people want to buy your book. The next thing you need to do is have a good book. And I don't mean this in have the greatest story ever or the greatest message ever, but make sure the book is up to quality. It's formatted properly. It's had an editor run through it. It makes sense. You're going to need a website, and you're going to need to know your target to handle distribution. So for starters, let's go ahead and start going through some of these things real quick. I'm going to start out with the website because I'm able to launch to a lot of stuff from there. So I'm going to show you an example of an author website. This is my website. This is just for me as an author. This has nothing to do, it's not book-centric. So what I have here is this is a little WordPress site. These are very easy, very low cost to build. On the sidebar here, I've got some information, all my titles that you can get, and some navigation on my site. And it's a blog. Otherwise, my home page is always a blog, because as I write new posts, I have updates that are going on my site, which keeps people coming back to my website. Another thing that I have on my website that is key is if you go into this About the Author section here, load up. It's got my picture in there, a little bit about me. But here's probably the most important thing that you can have on your site. All of these Contact Me sections. You can email me directly, hit me up on Skype, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads. Soon there'll be a Google Plus icon here, or you can send me an email straight from my website. 90% of the contact that I get from readers comes from this section right here, and it's extremely important. People need to be able to interact with you. This contact section is so important that I have a complete Contact Me tab that has the exact same contact stuff that was in the other one, but it gets its own page because I want to make sure that no one ever has a hard time getting in contact with me. And then on this, I do have book pages. So if I go into my book page here, I've got my cover art, and I've got a blurb about my book, okay, and where you can buy it. Since we're in here, let's go ahead and chat about creating a killer cover. This is an example of killer cover art. It's a very dynamic piece. It really brings the reader in. It's eye-catching. It also tells you something. Looking at this cover, there is no denying what this book is about. It's a fantasy book. There's going to be dragons in it. It's set in a different world. This all comes through very clearly on book. As a smaller image, it gets more compelling. This is extremely important. Your cover's job is to get people to click on it to read your blurb. Your blurb's job is to get people to download the sample of your ebook, or if it's a free book, to just download the ebook. That's those pieces' job, and that's all they have to do. So make this cover very targeted. Just it needs to be like a laser-guided weapon. Okay? Very surgical strike here. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk to you here is about your target. And I'm not necessarily just talking about your target audience for your book, but I'm talking about your target audience for some of your marketing. So to give you an example, I started out in the podcast world. In the podcast world, my readers fit this demographic. They are between the ages of about 15 and 25, male and single, or they're in their 40s or 50s, once again, male and single. They're generally more introverted people. They spend a lot of their time online. They like graphic violence in books. My podcast fit that need. Now, my ebook and my print book, a little bit different. So 70% of my audience before was the single male that was either older or really younger. For my print book, about 60 to 70% of my readers are female, between the ages of 20 and 40, and most of them are mothers. The overwhelming majority of them like my books because of the character development and because of the story between, the character interactions. Most of them do not like graphic violence. So when I am targeting my marketing, if I am marketing my podcast, I need to talk about the things that resonate with that group of people, which is the violence, the action, all of that kind of stuff. Just like action movies are targeting men. When I market my ebook, that's different. I am targeting it to mothers in their 20s and 30s. So know your target. And some of that you might not be able to find out until people start reading your book. You may have written your book for a specific target, but you'll kind of see on different media types, even in that target, you're going to get a little bit different variants of people. Okay, and the last part we're talking about is distribution. Your book needs to be everywhere. It needs to be on Amazon. It needs to be on Barnes & Noble. It needs to be on Sony, Kobo, Apple, and Smashwords. Okay, Smashwords is a great aggregator that puts your book up everywhere. You guys have heard me talk about it before. It's a good little site. But you need to be on these different retailers. Okay, so enough about the basics. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the different strategies that we're going to look at today. Okay, for starters, we're going to be looking at short-term strategies. And the short-term strategies really, truly are just that. They're going to get you quick burns. They're going to get you a good chunk of sales in a short amount of time. We use short-term strategies because all the long-term strategies that I'm going to be talking about really do take a long time. It's not just that they'll work for years, but that it takes them a good period of time 6 or 7 months to really start building any traction in the marketplace. These short-term strategies will help you to do stuff in the meantime, and there's going to be some crossover. Okay. The first strategy that I'm going to talk about here for short-term is free, and we're going to look at a couple of different strategies on free. And I'm going to use my book as an example on this. So I'm going to jump over to my books Amazon page. Let this load up here. And what I did is, and once again, this shows you cover art. You know, it's another quick blurb about this. Your cover art's a thumbnail. People should want to click it. Okay? So if I go into this book here, it's marked as free right now. Well, I did a little sales thing with this, and I'm going to explain how some of this stuff works. Okay? I used free in a short term to get a lot of sales, and I actually use it as a long-term strategy too, but more about that later. Okay, so I'm going to tell you real quick how Amazon works. It will market your book for you in 2 different ways. The first way it markets your book is this section here on every book. Customers who bought this item also bought. This section right here shows up in your book, and your book shows up in a bunch of other people's books. Amazon is going through and finding out what people like to buy. This algorithm, over time, will get more and more refined. The more copies your book moves and the more of other people's books move. It'll help them to really target for new readers to see that, oh, well, I enjoyed this book, and I can also get this one. This is a really great tool. This is more of a long-term strategy. The short-term strategy, and how we're going to use free, is this right here. Amazon bestseller charts. Okay? There is top 100s for every genre. There's a top 100 for paid, and there's a top 100 for free. We're going to talk about using the top 100 for free. Now, if you notice in here, my book right now in Epic Fantasy is ranked as number 4, the number 4 free ebook on Amazon. Okay. Now, what this does is this gets my book an incredible amount of exposure. And you're probably saying, well, but you're giving it away for free. I am. So here's one of the strategies that you can use on this. When I made my book free on Amazon, which takes a little bit of doing, but when you make a book free on Amazon, it'll start to move. When it hits these charts, you no longer have to drive sales. Amazon does it for you. These charts drive a huge amount of sales. To give you an example, at the end of June, and I was coming in at the end of the Sunshine sale, Lagon Awakening went free. In the 2.5 weeks left in June that it was free, it moved 23,000 copies. That's a lot of exposure. It climbed up to number 7 in the overall Kindle Books free chart. It's a pretty good rank. Now, I have a second book that's out, and this has done great for my second book. At the same time, there was another author that only had a single title that was out, and she was doing the same thing. The book is called The Box. I've never read it. I don't know if it's good or not, but Arlene's a great person. I've known her for years. She did the same thing. Now, Arlene only had the one book, and here's your strategy if you only have one book and you want to do a short-term free sale. At the end of the month, she made her book $9.99. Well, she had a book that was already charting, a book that was starting to show up in all these different categories, and then she made it $9.99. Instead of her sales dropping off to nothing, she held a pretty steady sales rank in the Kindle Paid For store for about a month. I would suspect she never shared any of her numbers with me. I would suspect she probably sold, 400 or 500 copies of the book by doing that. A lot of what she was doing with the free was getting reviews. So that's some of the benefits of doing a quick free campaign. By doing a quick free campaign, you are going to get exposure, and you're going to get a bunch of reviews on your book. And reviews help your book sell. It's part of your long-term sales strategy. Free is also a really great way to sell a second book. Under the premise that this is what I go under for my books, and it's done very well for me, If you like the first one, you will buy the second one. If I can give away that first book real easy, I can move free. But it's harder to move the paid-for content. But I can move that free one, people like it, and then they buy the second one. To get a really good push going with something like this, or any chart run. At the end of the day, short-term sales, any significant short-term sales, are about chart runs. You need to hit a chart. I don't care what retailer it is, pick one and target that chart. You can use social media. Okay? Getting on your Twitter, on your Facebook, on your Google+. Talk to people. Reach out to people. So when that day comes, and have a very specific target date in mind, whether it's a free or a non-free campaign, so that all of your social media friends are going to push your book. Okay, I'm going to talk about the ads real quick. This is something that I would not recommend on a paid-for run. It's going to cost you more money, and you're not going to get much from it. But if you're doing a free run, it's really handy. Okay, so like I said, my goal, if I do a free run, is to hit one of these charts. Sometimes these charts are hard to hit. I have to move a certain number of titles in order to do it. And there's 15,000 free ebooks on Kindle. There's not that many that are hitting the charts. Now, if you can get on the charts, you're okay. So to do that, one of the techniques I recommend is using Google Ads. You're going to create a splash page, and we're going to be talking about creating one of those, and it's going to be targeting just that chart, okay? Just the book for the one retailer. I'll create a splash page. You can go on to Google Ads, and you can say that you want to be under, say, free Kindle book is the search term you want to use. Spend a couple $100 on this. Don't be stingy with your clicks. You want to be on that first page of Google. So be willing to give them 40 or 50 cents per click. Now, that $100 or $200, you want to let it burn in the first day. So there's no limit. If you can get that used up in an hour, good for you. You want those clicks to go as fast as possible because you want Amazon to see a sales surge and to put you on a bestseller chart. Amazon does its charts on an hourly basis for the Kindle store. So you want to hit that. Now, that ad will get you probably 2, maybe 300 sales or free downloads. That's great. That's all you need to start charting. Then from there, it'll go on its own. You can also do events on Facebook and on Goodreads. You can do email blasts. These are great ways to get that initial traffic going. That way you can start selling stuff. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about in a short-term sales strategy is giveaways. Giveaways are a great way of getting people to see your book. Doing just a basic giveaway on your site, you can get a little bit out of it, but it's people who already know about you. I would recommend using Goodreads. I believe Library Thing has a giveaway feature on it. Most of these you have to be within the first 6 months of publication before you can list a giveaway. But if you do it, then Goodreads, for example, markets it for you. Hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people, will register for that giveaway to get your book a lot of really good short-term exposure. So these are the examples for some good short-term strategies. Okay? They're very quick, very easy, and they really don't have a lot of long-term effects. They do start to, if you can move a lot of books, because you have this section going here, they can be good for building part of your long-term strategy, but I use my short-term marketing strategies to give my long-term strategy a platform to launch from. So there's already something out there for them to start kind of, that long-term strategy to start grinding on. Okay. Let's talk about long-term. I'm going to come back here to free again. Okay. This has worked very, very well for me and for other authors that I'm close with. Okay. And we're going to talk about this here in just a second and how this continues to work and when it will work for you. We're also going to talk about social media and we're going to talk about bloggers. The most important thing that you need for a long-term strategy is a backlist. Backlist is extremely important. The best way to market a book is to write another one. If you look at a lot of very successful career authors, and even those who are just making a living, the overwhelming majority of them have a backlist. Trying to make a go with just one book is hard, especially in the e-world. I know a lot of you guys are public speakers, things of that nature. It's really difficult to make this in the e-world with just one book. Because there's no back of the house that you're selling out of. You're stuck in traditional marketing tactics. Fiction people, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this. You are not going to make it with one book. You need to write a second and a third and a fourth and just keep on going. So backlist is important. If you have a backlist, free is an incredibly powerful tool. Like I mentioned before, I have 2 books in my series out right now, the 3rd one coming out later this year. In that first book, Lagon Awakening, the one that is, I just closed that main window, too bad, the one that is currently number 4 as the free book, right? That's great traction, great visibility. This book at the end of it has information, has the prologue for the 2nd book in my series. For this one right here. This one isn't free. This one's $4.99. I make $3.50 per unit sold. So I'm using my free book to move my paid-for book. It's a very effective strategy. Let me go ahead and share some of my numbers with you. Okay. I always knew the importance of a backlist. And so when I was getting ready to really get out there and start marketing, I knew I had to get the 2nd book in my series out first. I went free once that 2nd book came out and started to do some of my tactics. Now, I was looking at all long-term at first because I needed to get that stuff set up. I was moving anywhere from 2 to 3 copies of both books a week. I went free on Amazon, and I moved that 23,000. Well, now instead of moving 2 or 3 copies of Lagon Ascension, the 2nd book in the series, moving 2 or 3 copies a week, I move around 20 to 30 a day. It's a little bit of a difference, and it's all off of the free book. I went from not getting a lot of contacts other than my podcast fans to getting a lot of emails. I get emailed 2 or 3 times a day asking when the next book is coming out. I respond to every single email. Okay? So your backlist is vitally important. Look around at authors that you know, even in our community. You don't have to look at celebrity authors. Look around in our community. Who are the authors that are doing well? Most of them have backlists. Okay, so I'll get off that horse now. Social media. We're going to talk a little bit about social media here, and we're going to talk on a pretty high-level thing. I'm going to tell you right now when it comes to social media, there is no silver bullet to how to do this. You need to find a strategy that you're comfortable with, that is good for your target markets, and something that you'll do. And that the last one's probably the most important. I've known people with these genius, complex social media strategies that they just never get around to doing, so they don't do anything for them. So we're going to go in and we're going to talk about this real quick. I'm going to jump over here first to Twitter. I'm going to jump onto my profile. Now, the key to social media is being social. You'll see a lot of people online that are not responding back to people. They're just posting stuff. That's not really effective. It's not a good way to build followers. You just end up being seen as a spammer, or by being non-responsive, people just don't care about your message. You need to be responsive to people. Okay? So, and that also goes for your emails too. Like I said, when anybody emails you, you email them back. You have to be friendly. And we all get those questions about our books that we've been asked a million times before. Don't snub a reader. They took the time out of their life to not only buy your book or to read your book, and then to contact you. It's a big deal for these people. It may just seem, you may just be Nick or Joe or Sally or whatever to you and your friends and family, but these people look up to you to a certain extent. Don't be rude to them. They took time out of their life, and that's an honor. If you get asked the same question 1,000 times a day, each time you are so happy they asked you that question. And for some of us, if we do get some of those same questions all the time, it's a really great learning experience when we're building our backlist, because we can say, well, wait a second, I need to obviously change this in my books because I'm getting a lot of questions about it. All right, so here's my Twitter profile. This profile has my books and targets my strategy. Okay, I'm going to talk real quick to you about strategies online. There's several different types. You're going to have to use a blend of these more than likely. If you're an expert, you need to act like one online. Okay? That means that you want to keep your personal posts down to a minimum, but you still have to do them from time to time. You still need to interact with people, and you can interact with people who are during personal posts. That's fine. You're still a human being. You're still a person, but you need to keep the same level of activity and interactivity with people, and you need to watch kind of what you're posting a little bit. All my fiction peeps out there, it's a little bit different for us. We are in the business of entertainment. I know your book probably has a message to it that's deeper and underlying, but first and foremost, you're an entertainer, which means online you act like it. So the bulk of our posts are personal, okay, because that is what is going to resonate with our audience. And also for both parties, whenever you're writing, talk about it. I am going and writing, and we'll show you some hashtags to use on that. So here's my profile. It's got my picture. You can use a regular avatar. Anything that you want, just make it specific to your branding. If you're trying to create a fun, playful image, use a fun, playful avatar. If you're trying to look like an expert, use an expert-looking avatar, or you can just use yourself. My bio here is extremely targeted. I'm a fun, relaxed writer guy. Well, that sentence right there is saying a few things. I'm saying to my fans, I'm fun and relaxed. Okay? I'm sounding very nonchalant in this. Writer, that's SEO. Search engines pick that up. I write, oh look, there's more SEO, mostly fantasy novels. Fantasy novel is also SEO, and it's telling people what I do. I have a couple in print and ebook. Right here, I'm very subtly saying, go buy my junk. Oh, and I like long walks on the beach. Once again, bringing back in, I'm just a regular person, maybe make someone chuckle. That is the goal of this section here. My hope is they click on my website and they go to this site right here. That's my hope. Same thing with Facebook and Google+. You have more space to use on those than you do in Twitter, but Twitter's a really great start. Okay. Now let's talk about a few other things on Twitter. On here, these are all of my tweets. And I try to tweet fairly often. I haven't been able to as much lately as I'd like to, but I do tweet fairly often. I will retweet other people's work. Retweeting is really important because if you retweet somebody else's work, they're that much more likely to retweet your work. If someone writes something or says something that you think is funny or great or right on the spot, retweet it. And people notice that, and they'll usually think, thank you for it. And along those lines, if someone retweets your work, you can see that if we go to our Twitter and we go to retweet, your tweet's retweeted, you'll be able to see who retweeted your work. You want to make sure when someone retweets whatever you did that you tell that person thank you, either in a direct message or publicly. Tell them thank you for doing that. Because if you do that, they're that much more likely to retweet you again. Okay? Now, over here you're going to see I've got a lot of people that I'm following and a lot of followers. In general, in my opinion, I think it's polite to follow people back, unless I can tell they're a spammer, and we'll look at being able to figure out how someone's a spammer or not. But I can't follow 1,800 people on my main timeline. So I use lists. If I click on lists over here, and I keep all of my lists private. A lot of people don't, but I prefer to keep mine private. I've got the people that I'm actually following. These are the people that I care about on a pretty regular basis. This is the list that I follow right here. I can see all these people. I got Hutch sitting out here, Passive Voice. I like Evo Terra. Okay, I've got a bunch of different lists based on different things that I've got going on. Okay, I have a news list. I get 100% of my news from Twitter and blogs. I never watch the news anymore. So these are very handy. I can see in here I'm following 48 people on this. All right, so let's talk about some stuff here that we can use in Twitter. I'm going to jump back into my tweet. All right, there's a few things that I'm going to tell you when I'm tweeting here. I'm going to give you some quick thou shalt not. And this goes with any social media. If your book is about politics or religion, by all means, tweet about politics and religion. If your book is not about either of those, do not post about it. What happens when you do is the people who agree with you nod their head and move on to the next tweet. The people who disagree with you might get frustrated, and a lot of them will probably unfollow you. That's what's great about the internet. If I don't want to listen to you, I don't have to. I have a lot of friends and family out there who insist about posting about stuff that I hate, and either they get dropped off of my Twitter list that I care about, or I hide their news feed. If it's an author, unless I'm really good friends with them, I unfollow them. And I'm like everybody else out there. So,
Nick, I can jump in here on just that comment, how critical that is, because that if you want to talk about your political views or religion or sex or fill in the blank that might push someone's button, is have a site that just does that. So people who want to hear it, they can go there. Otherwise, that it gets confused when people get so much information that comes from different areas. I have a friend who talks about her religion connections. She talks about her professional connections. She talks about meeting someone over here. And you get to the point where who cares? So make it really distinct. For on the Author You Facebook page, it's only publishing-related areas. You will not hear that things are going on in another area that are absolutely unrelated. For the Book Shepherd Facebook, we talk about our clients and who's doing what and what will enhance them. And then for my own general, it's, like I'm going to a convention this week. I would share that, and I'm hoping to connect with, old pals. So keep it distinct. They have distinct personalities. Don't become schizophrenic.
Thanks. Yeah, I completely agree. You got to be careful with what you're doing on there. Be very targeted. So now I'm going to talk about a couple quick things, a couple quick tools about Twitter. Some of this stuff is going to be things that people often get confused about when they first come into this space. The first one I'm going to talk about here is hashtags. Whenever I'm working on new writing, the common thread is am writing. This is used by both fiction and nonfiction people alike. If you're online and you're looking for something to tweet about, because we do want to be tweeting constantly, when you do start writing, this is a great thing, working on this part, because a lot of times people want to know when your next book's coming out. When you tweet about it, you say am writing, that kind of gets people out there. It's also a great way for other writers to find you on Twitter, and you want to network with those people. Other people who write the same type of book as you are your best friends. Network with these people. Do cross-promotion with these people. You look at anything. I'll use my books, for example. I write epic fantasy. Well, my readers have read a lot of other epic fantasy and are going to read a lot of other epic fantasy. You don't just read your one dragon book or vampire book and call it quits for life. So network with these people. So you can use that. Also, you can use shortened URLs. Like this right here is a shortened URL. And they're really handy because it kind of just shortens down the space that you're using. All right. So Now let's talk real quick about some other things that you might want to look at on Twitter when you're doing things. When you are tweeting, don't put a link in every tweet. Some people can do this, like news sites can get away with this, pages like AuthorU can get away with this, but as an individual, you really can't. You look like a spammer. It doesn't matter if you're posting great stuff, you just look like one. I see a lot of, especially authors out there, no matter what they tweet about, they put a bit.ly link or a shortened URL link is what bit.ly is, back to their website. So it's very confusing for someone because they might think that your tweet's kind of cool. Maybe you're talking about, if you are on the fiction side and you are talking about your personal life, some great restaurant that you're at right now, having maybe a meeting, who knows? And you put a link on there, people might think that's a link to the restaurant. They click on it, it's your blog, they're confused. Don't do that. Don't overuse hashtags. You don't want to look like a spammer. Other things to avoid in your profile. These are people that I do not follow, that have the following things in their profile. And you can look through the people that I'm following, and there's one exception to these rules, and it's my grandfather, and I'm the one who set up his Twitter account. I follow him to make sure he's not getting hacked. They need to have a profile picture or an avatar. This is what my grandfather doesn't have. They need to have a bio. I actually don't think I have that one for him either. But they need to have a bio. In that bio, I'm looking for certain keywords that are making me not follow you. If I see SEO, I am not following you. You are a spammer. You might not think so, but generally SEO people tend to spam a lot. Most of them are bots. So for the few legitimate ones online, that kind of stinks. If I see entrepreneur, I also do not follow you. You are generally also a spammer. Anybody who has social media in their profile, once again, it's like SEO. You're probably a spammer. Okay? So those are the things I look for. All right, we'll go ahead and get off Twitter here. All right, I'm going to bounce back over into my presentation here. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is bloggers. This is the best long-term strategy there is. Well, reviews and word of mouth is, but we're looking to generate that kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking about bloggers real quick. Book reviews and getting interviews is not easy to do. It's not something that is fast, and a lot of times it's hard to do. There's a lot of people out there who I know are paying for reviews. You don't have to pay for reviews. And if you talk to most industry experts, they'll tell you that you shouldn't. So we're going to talk to you about how to get reviews. It may not be in a magazine, but it's going to be in something even more effective, which is a blog. So I'm going to go ahead and bring back up here Google. I'm going to go over to this review site. This one is fiction-based, obviously, because that's what I do. But I found a book review blog. This is Fantasy Book Critic. This blog is a pretty big deal. A lot of people follow this. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I submit to this site, they're probably not even going to respond to my email. But I would like them to at some point. I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay. Finding book blogs seems daunting when we Google it and we just can't find anything. I'm going to teach you how to do it right now. Okay, so here's Fantasy Book Critics. You need to find one blog, the old-fashioned way with Google. Now, I scroll down, and I hit this magic section right here, blog roll. These are all the blogs that Fantasy Book Critic is following or believes in. So here's what you go through and do. You open up an Excel file or a numbers file, a piece of your Mac. You're going to create a column for the URL or basic info about the site. You can have its ranking, whatever you'd like. And you put that in there, and you're going to start creating this list of blogs before you start submitting to them. And when I go to this blog roll here, if I click on a dribble of ink, bring up a new tab, puppy load up, I'm going to see something pretty cool. I'm going to get this site loading up while we're waiting for that one to come up too. So, and Fantasy Book Critic has about 85 on its blog roll. Not all of these are book reviewers. Some of them are just regular book sites. So while that's loading, so it's taking a while, I'm going to copy this URL, and I'm going to go into this rating site here. Go into top site. I can paste this information in here, do a search, and it's going to tell me what Fantasy Book Critic is ranked. It's linked back to 330 different sites, linked back into it. The overall rank is 362,000, which sounds kind of bad, but actually in internet terms, that's a pretty high rank. It looks like Dribble Bank doesn't get a lot. He's got a bunch of others. Okay, so I'll put that all in an Excel file. Now, because I did click on that blog roll, here comes another review site. I do the exact same thing here. I get some information off of this site. I go down, I see what type of things they're reviewing and how they review stuff, make sure it fits with my genre, and then there's their blog list. You seeing a pattern here? You can use this to create this huge index of bloggers. And then you can use tools like this to figure out who the top dogs are. I will also put down who is being linked back where, meaning there is some blogs on here that Fantasy Book Critic follows that are really small. Like Fantasy Book Critic, the people who are running this site aren't paying for books anymore. They're getting all submitted to them. Some of the blogs that they're following are real small people that are only getting a handful of viewers every day or every week. They're just going to be tickled that they don't have to pay for a book. And they'll take your book and they'll probably be a little bit more favorable on the review because they're happy and honored. Okay? You hit the small people first. And you work your way up to the mid-list people. And then, by the time you get to these, they've seen your book several times. You are no longer an unknown entity. They will say yes most of the time. Also, if you're going to submit a book to review, make sure you're fitting their review, their submission guidelines. Make it a personal email to them. Okay? Another thing that is a really good idea is in your email, you can create a splash page. We're going to talk about how to create these that you can put at the bottom of your email. So you have a nice HTML-rich email that's going out to them that gives them a little bit more information. It's going to kind of help you stand out from the pack. It's like when you're interviewing with a company and you send a thank you note. Get your resume put back up to the top of the pile. Okay? Using this technique, you can get your book reviewed, or you can get interviews on site. Okay? So you don't have to just target review sites. Other authors in your genre, a lot of times we will swap, not necessarily reviews, I don't know if that's always a good idea with other authors, but we'll swap interviews, find other authors, link back to them, have them link back to you. It's good for cross-promotion. Also, if you have a book that does have a specific message, find blogs that are blogging about that message. They may review your book, but they might let you give an interview about your book or about that topic, and it'll link back to your site. Okay, what this does is this creates traffic going back to your site, going to your book, and over the long term, builds up a steady readership. It also increases your site's ranking. Makes it easier to find with SEO stuff. Okay, so that's bloggers and social media. Those are the biggest long-term sales tactics. At the end of the day, the best sales tactics are people, and last reports I was looking at, 22% of book buyers buy a book based on the author, and it's something like 20% bought based on a referral from a friend. Okay, you want word of mouth, and you want people liking your stuff, be it a blog post or a tweet or whatever, and they buy your book as a result thereof. We're going to look at a couple other social media sites here real quick. Facebook, people have talked about extensively. We've talked a lot about Twitter. Google Plus is something that's brand new. You need to start using it. If you're not on Google Plus, find somebody who is and get them to send you an invite. It's got, I can show you real quick going on inside Google Plus. If I jump in here, Google Plus is different from Facebook in that it's all circle-based, so you can control the content that's going out to people. So see here, I've got my circles. If I click in circles here, it finishes loading up. when I post a status update, I can choose the people who are seeing it. If I want to be friends or family or acquaintances to just see that, publishing contacts, whoever, I can have all these people see a specific message. Google Plus is brand new. I think it has potential to go really far, to do better than even a Facebook, but it has yet to be seen right now. They have, I think, around like 20 or 30 million users, so it's smaller, but it's building up pretty quick. So Google Plus is one to look at. And then I'm going to talk real quick about some of the book-centric sites. Facebook, like I said, we've talked about that, and Twitter we've talked about. This is called Goodreads.com. Goodreads is extremely important for authors. Bookread is Facebook for book lovers. And this is fiction and nonfiction alike. People come on here, they talk about what books they're reading, the percentage they're through, they leave reviews, there's whole communities on here. This is great. So your book's probably already listed on Goodreads. They're really good about going out and finding every title. You want to set up an account, it's free, find your books, and say that you're the author. What Goodreads will do then is they'll create an author profile for you. If I click on my account here, I can go see how my author profile looks to the rest of the world. So on here, I can see I got my picture. Man, it's a good-looking picture. And then I got my URL for Goodreads, goodreads.com/NicholasTaylor. Link back out to my site, what I write, some of my influences, about me, and then as my blog on here. It'll have my Twitter updates on here. It'll have all the books that I've written that are on here. And it'll have what I'm currently reading and what I have read. It also has, when I come down here, all of the groups that I belong to. Okay, any quotes that I might have or any quotes that I might like to. But all these groups that I belong to. Okay. I can see, once I have this, people can become fans of me. They can become my friend, whatever. Okay. This is a very handy site to use. Some things to use on Goodreads. Use a giveaway. If it's within 6 months of your book being released, you can do a giveaway. It has to be a print book. They won't let you do just an ebook. But list a giveaway. It's free to list a giveaway. You'll probably get 500 or 600 contacts for the price of a book. These are people who are interested in your book. Great. Go for it. The next thing you're going to want to do is down here, there's all these groups. Join some. Find some groups. Get involved. It's a really great way to get in front of readers and other authors. Another thing that you can do in the groups is you can create a group. I highly recommend this. Create a QA group for your book, okay, and for you as an author. I would give you mine as an example. I currently don't have one up. I'm migrating my forum on my site, which was a full Simple Machines forum, over to a Goodreads discussion group, so it's not up quite yet. But they're very simple to create. People can go on there, ask questions, talk among themselves. Goodreads is important. Okay. Another very handy, important site is Shelfari. Go ahead and look at Shelfari. Shelfari is owned by Amazon. Okay, so it's a lot like Goodreads, except there's some differences in Shelfari that are kind of interesting. In here, there's a lot of user-driven content. For example, there's this character section in every book. Somebody has taken the time to go through and put in all the different characters in this book, and they're giving a little bit of information about who they are, okay, which is pretty cool that someone's going out and doing that. Some people are putting in some highlights. This is off of their Kindle. Once again, Amazon owns Shelfari, which means that anything that happens on Kindle or happens in Shelfari updates back to Amazon. And so this, for example, people are highlighting this, okay, in their Kindle, and it's showing up on Shelfari. So it's all going back. Location, all this. All this goes back up to your book and create a lot of user-driven content behind it. Library Thing is the other one. I don't use Library Thing all that much. The reason why is I am using Twitter, I am using Facebook, I am using Google, Goodreads, and Shelfari to a certain extent. You start getting overwhelmed with social media sites. I would recommend on LinkedIn, I would recommend on the book sites, have an account on all these, but there's going to be one site that you're going to find that you're naturally going to gravitate towards. No one is better than the others. I prefer Goodreads, but there's a lot of people out there who love Shelfari. Just as long as you have an account on them, you're good to go. Okay, so that's social media. All right, so let me cover a couple recap things, and we're going to open it up for questions. You want to create a good product. You want a good cover art. On that side, I want to talk real quick about pricing your ebook. Be reasonable. I know you can sell a hardback or a paperback for over $20. You can't sell your ebook for that. Sorry. No one's going to buy it. If you have a name out there, if you are a celebrity author, great. J.K. Rowling, she can sell her ebooks for $20. I can't. Now, at $4.99, I can make a killing in the marketplace, and I make $3.50 per book. At $9.99, you can sell some. It's getting to the top of the price range. I would not recommend going above $9.99. There's some reasons behind that other than just it's harder to sell books. When you go over that price bracket, most retailers stop paying you the 50 or 70% royalty brackets if they have them. They go down to the 30 or 35%. So if you sell at $11, you actually make less money than if you sold your book at $9.99. So keep that in mind. Other than that, that's some stuff. Oh, I wanted to show you, I was saving the best for last year and completely forgot to show you. Google Docs. Google Docs is great. This is an example of a free tool that you can use that's online. And you can use it to create splash pages like this for free. Okay? I'm a big fan of doing stuff myself. Sometimes it can be a little tricky, but this isn't. You go into Google Docs, you can create a splash page. I have a framework worked out here. Now, I'm just using tables. You can do this by hitting Table, Insert, see how many rows you want. I'm actually going to go ahead and click out of this. Quick here. I got to load back up. I can go inside of a table here, and I can create another one. Click in here, insert table. Here's another table. I can right-click in here, and I can change all these table properties. What the row size is, their colors are, if there is a border, everything. And I can build something that looks a lot like this. Here's what's cool. When I'm ready to turn it into a web page, all I do is click on File, Download As, HTML. Just open it up in your favorite web browser. Come up like this. If you do a Select All, that's Command A or Control A for PC users. You can do a Select All, and you can do a copy and paste into almost any email software. And you just created a nice high-end HTML email, and you didn't have to pay a dime for it. So Google Docs is a great tool. If you want to learn how to use some of these tools, other good ones is GIMP, graphic software, or any of this, go to YouTube and type in how to use Google Docs, how to use GIMP, how to use Photoshop, all of this kind of stuff. YouTube is great. You have to sift through some videos that aren't that helpful, but you're going to find a lot of very helpful tutorials. Okay, and with that, I will go ahead and open it up to any questions that anyone might have. Okay, we're pretty good then. All right, well, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the webinar today. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email Judith or to contact me directly. My email address is nick@darkfireproductions.com. I'll type that up in here so you can see it. Just go ahead and email me there, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Or feel free to contact me on Google, Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, or any of the other sites that we talked about today. And Judith, thank you so much again for letting me do this, and I'll turn the time back over to you.
Hey, you know what, Nick, before we fully close off, I do have a couple of questions. I mean, Darkfire Productions certainly does ebooks. What changes do you see with authors in how they're thinking about ebooks or how they're moving quickly? And why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit about what Darkfire is doing in the ebook world?
For sure. Most people are moving over to ebooks right now because it's the only thing in the publishing world. It and audio are the only things that are actually growing market share. Ebooks are continuing to expand very rapidly. I think we're going to see, this is going to be the year of the ebook. The reason why I say that is, some of you might be aware, the new Nook has come out. It is selling very well. Nook Color is one of the highest selling e-readers out there. The Nook is selling great. The Kindles are selling great. Also, come October, there's 2 new Kindles coming out, and Amazon is launching a tablet to compete with the iPad. iPad is doing relatively well. The Galaxy is catching up to it, so we're seeing a lot more people getting these dedicated e-reading devices and tablet computers, and they are moving over to e-platforms. What that's going to mean is you're going to see some sales surges. And to kind of give you an idea of ebook sales, summer months are really, really bad. We're talking 60 to 70% hits in sales during summer months. August is one of the worst. I'm suffering in my sales right now too, just like everyone else. It'll start to build up in October. New reading devices will come out. The greatest part when someone gets an e-reader is they have to put content on it. So in October, people will start purchasing these, and then people will start getting them for gifts. So December, you'll see a big pickup in sales, and then from December 25th on, ebook sales skyrocket and boom for about 3 or 4 months. We're going to see a lot of authors out there moving and shaking then. We're going to see a lot of people selling a lot of books. So more and more people are getting into it.
Yeah, I think I'll throw a date here that because this is going to be recorded and people will be listening to it, months and months later. But in July of 2011, which is right smack in the middle of summer, Kindle has announced, or I guess I should just say Amazon has announced that they are going to be partnering, or I like to say hooking up, with Toys R Us. And they are going to be really going after the kids market. And since you think of Toys R Us, not of older kids who are reading, you're thinking of little ones, means to me that they are absolutely going full barrel with these huge profits they just announced. Over $9 billion in this last quarter revenues, not profits, but $9 billion in revenues in the second quarter here, is that they are going to be putting a huge amount of money into getting into the illustrated and taking iPad on, because young kids are that visual graphic side, and Kindle's not known for that.
It's very true. And Nook has done very well in that marketplace. The Nook Color has. And with them partnering with Toys R Us, if there was any other, because Amazon's been a little quiet about their tablet. They're kind of pulling a siege on this one. With them partnering with Toys R Us, there is no doubt that it's going to be a tablet that is meant to compete with iPad. From my understanding of what research have been able to do, it's Android-based. The Galaxy is taking iPad shares of the marketplace. Nook Color is doing well. This is going to be, these device manufacturers are really, they're going to really bloody themselves up creating these devices, which is great for us as authors. Because that's going to mean in a few years, truly functioning ebooks are becoming out, the ability to embed more in them. Graphics side, more interactivity, all that stuff is going to be coming along. So that's going to be coming down the pipe. I do think that the regular standard text ebook will still continue to be the dominant factor out there. But we are moving into children's books. We are going to be seeing a lot of stuff that's going on. So these are retailers to be watching for and to be in. You want books that have been reviewed. By that point in time, when these markets start blowing up, you really want that credibility in the marketplace. As far as what's required, we do conversions. We'll convert your ebook, put it in any of these distribution channels you'd like, And we generally go through Smashwords and then also Amazon. And we'll help people get up through there. We'll convert your book, help you grade. We have cover art services, help you get that great cover art. We'll sit down with you if you'd like to meet with us. We'll teach you how to use any of this stuff. We'll teach you how to build sites, all that kind of fun stuff, and we'll help give you targeted marketing approaches.
Excellent. And then I do have a couple of other questions. One is that, let's say you have eBooks out there, and a lot of our listeners do have eBooks out there, but they have been, the best phrase would be limping along, if best.
Right.
So if you were to say 1, 2, 3, what are the 3 things that the limp along books that have just been there, what should they do to get fire in the book belly and get it going?
Okay. The number one thing that they need to do, and I'm going to target this first to nonfiction people, and then actually I'll target first to fiction people and then to nonfiction people.
Excellent. Excellent.
Fiction folks, if you're not comfortable with making your first title free, write a short story. Slap some cover art on it, make it free. Put the prologue of your book in that free one. You will move a bunch of copies just on their own. Okay. If you're a nonfiction person, take an aspect of your book, write a little bit more about it, and make a little detailed section so it's mirroring a short story, and make it free. A lot of time when people have those books that just aren't moving, they're not getting exposure. They can have the most amazing book ever, but it's not getting in front of people. Make it free. Get something out there, a short or an excerpt of your book that's 100% free, and drive that traffic. That's number one that you need to do. Number 2 is you need to look at your social media campaigns and your blogs and things of that nature. Some good reading on this, and some of it's not all I would say about. I agree with about 60% of this book. John Locke's book, How I Sold a Million eBooks in 5 months, on Kindle, it's worth a read. He can kind of teach you some other targeted strategies. Some of them I agree with, like I said, some of them I don't. Take what you will with it. But that's the number 2 thing you need to do is, what am I doing online? What's working, what's not? The number 3 thing you need to be doing is targeting those bloggers. Okay? If you're doing those 3 things, if after about 6 months, oh, and look at price too. That might actually be the number 1 thing. Let me correct that. Step 0, we'll say that, is to look at your price. If your book is listed at $9.99 and nobody's moving, even if you're getting a bunch of samples, which you'll be able to see on Smashwords, and it's not translating into sales, lower your price. And try it for a few months there. But if you do put all these strategies into place and you're still not finding any movement in the marketplace, you might just be having a hard time getting in front of the marketplace, but you might want to look at your book. Because at that point, if you're not moving it free, if you're not moving with some of these other strategies, and you'll know from some of the bloggers, if you're submitting for review, some of them you'll either be getting a lot of rejections after someone reads a sample of your book saying, I'm not going to review this, or you'll get a lot of negative reviews. There could be something wrong with the formatting of the book, or it just may not be a book that's going to sell well. And occasionally that happens for reasons that can be a little unknown. Generally speaking, if you can get in front of your audience, you can sell a lot of books, but there are some books, I've seen some people that have come out with, when we talked about producing a quality book, they've come out at the free level with no editing, no cover art, all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't move. So make sure you have a quality product before you're going out in the marketplace. And a lot of the people who are limping along, sad to say, a lot of them just don't have a quality product. And they may have a perfectly formatted ebook, but it's the book itself that's just not up to par, so you might want to look at sprucing it up.
And since, we do have different readers out here, the Kindle, the Nook, the iPad are going to be the 3 top ones, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. I'd say right now the market is being dominated by Kindle, Nook, and Kobo. iPad's only making up, out of retailers, a lot of people are reading Kindles on their iPad, but yeah, iBookstore only makes up about 4 or 5% of the marketplace currently.
So would you suggest to our listeners that they should buy one or get a hold of one and to see what their books look like on those different formats?
Oh, yeah.
Will they look differently from a Kindle to an iPad to the Nook to the Kobo? How are they going to vary in the formatting, or does it make a difference once you've got it up there?
It does and it doesn't. And the biggest thing to remember is it's going to look different than your print book. But another thing to remember is on all these different devices, how the reader sees it is usually user-defined, especially on the tablet devices. On the Kindle, I can change my text size, I can change its justification, I can change its padding, if it's serifed or not, I can change quite a bit. On an iPad, for example, I can change a lot more. I can change foreground and background color. So to a certain extent, it can be kind of hard. There's some people out there that I know that will do all this detailed formatting work on a book, and they'll make it right to the limits of every distributor's requirements because they're trying to get it as close to their print book as they can, and they end up having to find a friend with an iPad and someone with a Kindle and someone with an older Kindle that has a different screen size and then a Nook and blah, 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 blah. No. Keep the thing simple. As simple and elegant as possible. Then you only have to look at it on a Kindle or on your computer. But that being said, if you're an author, you need to have an e-reader. This is what people are buying on. This is what people are reading on. You should have it. It's also something that you can keep in your pocket, in your purse, in your backpack, and in your standing in line, and you're reading on your Kindle. It's a conversation starter, and I can't tell you how many books I've sold by showing a prologue to my book and handing it to a person in line. They can read it on my Kindle while I'm waiting to get checked out, and then they go and they buy the book.
What a great idea, Nick. I mean, to the marketing, because I know that a lot of our authors are e-book people. They really do like the print book. And I will confess, I am such a visual, tactile person. I like to smell the paper. I like to feel the paper. I love book covers. I love that whole feeling. And when I want to sit down and read a book, to enjoy a book, I really want to hold a book. Now, with that said, I think that if you're in the book business, and authors are in the book business, that you really need to understand the different formats that they're available and have those out there as a marketing ploy. And so if someone's talking, if you're, I say that of course you can get my books on Kindle and the other e-forms, that it would be really smart to be able to show here's what it looks like so you help plan it. Here's the physical book. Here is the electronic book. What's your choice? Great idea. Fabulous suggestion.
Good.
So, all right. Well, thank you again for being with us. A wealth of information. And again, if any of our listeners do want to follow up, and I would encourage you, I know Darkfire Productions has formatted all my books, my personal authored books, and got them up into Kindle and iPad and Nookland, that I would encourage you to contact Nick and his team to talk about doing yours too. And with that, look forward to having you all with the next Author You presentation, and we'll let you know when it's scheduled. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.